We are live. Lanre, how you
How's it
doing?
going? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yes, yes. I feel spoiled. I've got quite a lot of your time today.
Been a while, man. Got to make up for lost
There's a
time.
lot. There is a lot. There's a lot to catch up on. So, welcome everybody welcome back, I should say, to the Establish You podcast. Remember, we're here to try and fast track your career progression, and organizations. We're working with you to fast track the development of your employees and your top talent. Please remember, Establish You on YouTube, because this is where the videos and other videos will be saved. So yeah, hit that subscribe button. Lanre, how should we dive into this? Because for those who are aware, we just did our first catch up in a while in terms of what's been happening and the impact on employees and professionals, and we spoke about COVID-19 and all of that, but we kind of just lightly touched on some really important issues.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think I was conscious as well because COVID's a big thing, and we're feeling a lot going on, but then also what's been happening with George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter. That's a whole other thing that is going on in our world, society, working life. So I think we just needed to kind of look at that sort of separately and the impact of us as Black coaches, Black men, but also organizations, and kind of what we see. And for you, again, with that Establish You might be a Black, we're even going to talk about this BAME thing as well, because that's all, but you might be a BAME person.
Yes.
We'll get into that, but seeing how racism is impacting you, what you're seeing, or maybe you're someone who's an ally and as well, you've seen this in a different light, but in organizations as a whole. So I think there's many facets to that. Maybe it's someone who's just not noticed it, or you're noticing it now. So I think let's just I think share some of what we're feeling as well, because I think it'll be remiss of us to just go straight into what organizations should do and not actually reflect on the impact it's had on us and our work and our lives.
Yeah, definitely. And just a quick one, as we maybe if it helps, but with all of things that have been happening with George Floyd's I'll call it a murder. I'm really conscious that I've got a network which is filled with coaches, career coaches, leadership development coaches, and diversity and inclusion specialists, consultants, people that have are academics, have PhDs in these topics. So my point is that how do I stay in tune with the wider society and where people are at? So I logged into my Facebook, I logged into Twitter, and I started to look at the different narratives that are being put out there and the different perspectives. And when I logged into my Facebook the other day, I scrolled through the first status update I saw. I won't put the name of anybody on blast or anything, but essentially the message was this: why is a thug being given a hero send-off, and why are Sky News reporting so much on this? This person is a criminal and basically deserved what they got. And that was one thing. That was like whoa, okay, this is interesting. So I'm literally in a bubble, because a lot of my the content I'm seeing has nothing to do with this kind of sentiment. So it's helpful because it gives me a temperature check. It was like when the whole Brexit thing happened and everyone was out of touch, right? So I was like, okay, cool. Let me carry on scrolling. And then I saw there were about 80 plus comments. And the thing that was quite surprising for me is that most of the comments were agreeing to the sentiment. And then you had a few others just trying to offer another perspective on the topic. Now, the majority of them were not from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds. So potentially that's a lot to do with it. But what it just hit home for me, and this is why I wanted us to spend a bit more time on this particular element of it, is that there's such different levels of understanding when it comes to racism, how it impacts society and what racism actually is. So that for me was like a whoa. Okay, it's not, people aren't where I thought they were. People aren't where I thought they were. So let's dive in. Let's dive into it. So look, 2020. Let's back up a bit. So 2020, it was, coined the happy new decade. This is what a time to be alive, right? New beginnings, and then we were just hit with a global pandemic, and unfortunately, lots of lives have been lost. People have lost loved ones. Condolences to anybody who's kind of lost loved ones in this unprecedented time. More than 41,000 deaths now. But one of the scary things is that Black, Asian, and minority ethnic people are at risk, at higher risk, when it comes to actually, dying from COVID-19. So that was kind of the rumor, and that's what the stats were alluding to. But the Public Health England report has confirmed that for us now. So, if you're somebody from this group, if COVID-19 wasn't giving you enough things to worry about, and the anxiety, being on furlough, having to, if you are a parent trying to work from home and look after your children, on top of that, you might actually be at higher risk of dying from COVID-19 simply because of your ethnicity. As someone who's you're coaching, you're training people, this is stuff that's going to come up. This is stuff that people are navigating if they are from this group. What would you say on this?
Yeah, it hits home, and there's different layers to it. When I had lots of conversations on this, on why, what does this mean, that BAME people are more likely to get COVID-19? It's then you look at the sort of socio-economic factors around why these groups, whether they're more on the front line or whether the accommodations they live in, the way they live their life. And again, it just hits home that we live in a society where there's not parity. Mm-hmm. And there are groups that are not we're running the same race, but different people are having different starting points. And there's different obstacles for other. And it's really, really come to the fore when actually people are losing their lives as a result of it. And the highlight is really on it. And you're right, it's going to have a real impact mentally, physically, financially. And we all know when we're under financial pressure and stress, what that does for people, what that does for health. And there's going to be a lot of things coming out. And I think it's important to address it and look at these things to help people and to make an impact and difference. And as you say, this combined with the George Floyd incident and the whole movement around racism and what's happening, it's really come to a point where I feel people have said enough is enough. We need to discuss this. We need to head this off because it's gone on for too long.
Yeah. So one of the I guess key themes or narratives that are coming back from specifically the black professionals or just black people is that they are tired. They are exhausted of having to explain how racism affects their everyday lives, in work, outside of work. They are tired of having to educate others about the impact it has on them. And they're also tired of not seeing any change. Right, so that's that. Your experience. We are experiencing it in several different ways. The anger, the fear. Obviously, if you're able to engage with people, face to face, then you're gonna understand it live and direct. If not, you might see it in social media posts and interactions if you're doing focus groups and stuff like that with your employees. But it's something that really needs time. We need to really listen this is the time to listen, I think, to that.
Mm.
You know?
Mm. Yeah.
I'm just going to jump out of the slides so we can see your lovely face in full view.
Yeah, I hear
So
that.
yeah, one thing actually that comes up again as well for me is that, like I said, there's different levels of understanding in regards to the impact for specifically Black professionals. You know, I don't always like to use BAME. BAME is a term that um, has been used for collecting statistics, etc. But it's not relevant to everything. You know, we do need to drill down and understand the specific experience for the groups, and then the solutions need to be tailored for these particular groups. So that's one of the issues. But how about this then, Lanre? You know, this is what you might hear. I don't understand why there's such a hoo-ha about racism in the UK. You know, what happened to George Floyd, rest in peace, George Floyd, is an American issue, okay? They have issues with guns, they have issues with police brutality, and that's a systemic thing in America. Now, many are finding it difficult to understand why there's been such an uproar in the UK, not just from, you know, Black and ethnic minority groups, but actually across all ethnicities. Why has there been such an uproar here? For those people that are really struggling with that, what would you say?
People need to be made aware of what that looks like and how that comes to pass. Even the fact that, in terms of even the FTSE 100, how many Black CEOs are there? I don't think there are any.
Yeah.
If you look at the boards, what they look like, you're not going to see many Black people there. Senior leadership, how much Black people are you seeing? And even this is going back to your point, even around BAME. It was interesting. I think it was Sky News when there was an interview with Matt Hancock, the health secretary.
yes, yeah.
About BAME, Black representation. And he kept talking about Asian people being in leadership, and he couldn't get it that actually there's a difference between Black people and Asian people. And sometimes it's kind of, let's lump them all in one group because it looks like we're doing something. But actually there, as you say, we need to drill down, because if the Asian group might be doing well, you can't just say BAME is doing well. And I'm not saying that there's not issues and Asian people don't face racism, but it's saying there are challenges that Asian people face that Black people might not, and vice versa. Even if you drill down within that, if you go to Asian groups, there's going to be different Asian groups have different issues. Even in the Black race, there's going to be difference between Black African versus Black Caribbean and different and all of these things. We can't just lump people into a group. And I think there is a real issue with BAME term, because you're not really solving anything, because you're not targeting anything specifically. So I think on that, when you start to really look and highlight actually what is going on in our organizations, someone said to me, actually, it's not microaggressions. We always talk about microaggressions towards Black people. It's not microaggressions, it's actually racism. So all these things, whether it's Black people being labelled aggressive when they talk a certain way for their tone, or whether they need to dress or their hairstyle. If you come out with an afro, that's meant to be you're not being professional. All of these things, which is creating a system that makes it difficult for one group to progress, to express themselves in the right way, is a real issue. And I think that's what people aren't realising. They're not noticing it because it's not of concern, but if they open their eyes, they say, actually, there's something not quite right here. That people aren't represented in the way they should be. And I'm talking in a business sense, but also in society, whether it's the political arena, different areas as well. I was talking to a sports presenter, Black sports presenter, and he just gave the facts around there's 30% Black and ethnic minorities playing, but there's no coaches in the Premier League, for example. There's none in the boardroom, for example. So whatever industry you look at, you're seeing these same issues.
Definitely. So what can be done then? So one extreme that I just gave is that there's the lack of awareness of the scale or the nuances to this problem in terms of racism, discrimination in the workplace and society, and also the fact that lots of identities intersect, right? So you mentioned, okay, if you are black, but what if you're a black female, or if you're a black parent who is female, who's also gay? Like there's so much, we're not just one group, so one solution is not going to work for the whole group. So some people are quite progressive in their knowledge. So for them, we're not obviously speaking to you, and obviously we're quite fortunate to work with some of these quite progressive people. So can you give, I guess, some examples of what should be done moving forward then? Because we've seen the PR statements now. We've seen some of the brands come out and pledge their solidarity for the cause, et cetera, et cetera. But what do we want to be seeing? Because this isn't new. So what is going to really make that meaningful change in your perspective?
As you say, anyone can put a kind of LinkedIn post. You can get your intern to be managing your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever account it is. Your intern can do that. So I don't know who's posting that. I don't know the message behind that. Yeah, it's nice to say something rather than not say something, but in the scheme of things, what's that going to mean? I think one thing, I saw a post about this recently about I&D work and people want to get stuff for free. It's actually, if this is important, put a budget to it, spend some money on it. If the progression or eradication of racism and progression of ethnic minorities in your organization given support is important, is of value, put some money to it. Give your people in your organization the resources and money to put in place the initiatives, the programs that need to be placed, the talks, whatever it might be. Bring in the expertise that you need, which is going to cost money, the thinking, the best practice, the understanding, and make it a long-term thing. Don't just make it something, you're going to cut now because there's something else more priority. If you're just doing that, we'll let people know that actually we're going to put time, effort, and money in. Who in senior leadership? Who's sponsoring this? Who is involved? Who's educating themselves? Who is spending time to actually understand what is the issue and how do we solve it? So that's one of the things you can just do first and foremost. And really understand who the people in your organizations. So talking specifically about black people, look at it. Who's in your senior team? Why are they not in your senior team? I was reading a story about Serena Williams' husband who stepped down from Reddit on the board. That's a great example. Because if you want to give people these positions, someone's going to have to move out. Someone's going to have to step aside. So what spaces are you creating, whether someone's stepping aside or you're just bringing in an extra seat? What are you doing to ensure that's happening? And you can't just bring in a new seat. There needs to be a structure around that. So how are you going to ensure the climate is going to take on board this new way of thinking, this new person, this new ideas? What are we going to say in the communications, our policies, our actions, our behaviors? Coaching, what coaching support are they going to get? What coaching support are previous leaders going to get? So it's not just a small thing that you can come in and run an unconscious bias session and say, yes, ticked off. Are you prepared to be uncomfortable? I'll freeze because I can go into it, but part of it is actually sit down and have a real conversation. Sit down and actually look at where are we going wrong and what do we need to change? So what are the things we're doing right and how do we do more of it? Are we listening to our people? Are we getting them to lead on these initiatives? And not just on diversity, your business. That's a little bit of me. Interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I echo what you're saying there. You touched on the action that needs to be done and making it sustainable. Not just kind of a knee jerk because the pressure's on from media. One thing for me is to really listen and understand. Essentially, define the problem before throwing initiatives, etc., at it. And that's what I'm not seeing much of from my experiences, it is that, you know, some people do have some budget, but actually the budget is not necessarily going to the right places because the problem hasn't been defined in the most granular way. And one part of that is that the data, or the lack of data around the problem, and around, okay, so what are the challenges faced by people from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds, and, you know, what do these professionals look like? So really understanding that, having the data, so then when you are making policy changes or you are putting initiatives in place, you can then assess it again, you know, and then somebody quite senior, one of the leaders, is also accountable for the progress or lack of progress as well. Not only their job though, let's not get it twisted, you know, everybody, but there needs to be accountability. The same way we wouldn't just be like, hey guys, or company wouldn't be just like, hey guys, we are going to be working towards this target, and obviously if the company does well, these are the results that we expect, and then you're not going to check in on a quarterly or monthly basis. That would never happen. You know? So why is it that, you know, these targets are not being set and then monitored with, you know, consequences if they're not being met, etc. So that's one thing that just to build on what you said, and then you spoke about difficult conversations. So let's stay on this particular part of the D&I and belonging and equity, whatever else you want to call it. Let's stay on the race part of it, because what happens often is it's such a difficult one. And let's be honest, it's not easy. No one said it was going to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. But what I'm experiencing is, for many, it's so challenging and so discomforting that the focus will divert somewhere else. So yeah, those things for me, I'll build on the points you've said, is you know, keep the conversation and the focus on the actions, not just conversation, we want actions on sort of race and the inequality there. The investment needs to be done, but the problem needs to be defined, and you do that with having specific data. So
yeah. And on that, I think that being specific, it links to what we're saying about BAME as well. Like, you need to break it down. You need to have a specific focus and finding that right support, and even within your business, the different areas. So you need to have a clear plan on the recruitment. What are you doing around the recruitment? So that's a lens, that's a strand you need to work on. What's your processes that you have in place? Where are you looking for your people? How are your hiring practices? How are your interviewing practices? All those different levels that gets someone through the door. What are you doing in terms of race, and what impact is that having? So there's a recruitment piece. There's a promotion piece as well, in the same way. How are you making decisions on your processes, your appraisal systems, your feedback, all of those things, one-to-one conversations, everything that links to that final decision around promotion. Retention is another area as well. You've got to do the work around retention. So it's not just a quick thing, as I say, let's get some people in the room and talk about how you're feeling, and let's do some stuff over Black History Month, or when everyone's talking about it now because of what's going on, and then go back to normal. As you say, there's got to be a clear plan. There's got to be a clear focus. And I'm not even talking about quotas and numbers. That's another subject we can even get into. But even before even talking about that, whether that's needed, whether that will work, fundamental things that you need for your business to make a difference and a change.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky though. It's tricky. Let's not. It's tricky. It's complex. So you know, I really do empathize with those who are you know, really trying, but you know, not maybe seeing the results that they maybe would expect or would like. So I understand it's tricky, but it has to be continuous. It has to be continuous, you know, trying, like you say, speak to the experts, bring people in to support you. One trick that is... Go on.
I think it's important to... I agree it's tricky, but we're talking about high-paid execs, strategic people whose jobs are tricky. So they're dealing with tricky things in their business, and they put the time in, they get the resources, they get the consultants, they do everything that is needed to overcome the trickiness to
And
get through it.
yeah,
So what's
no, that's a
different?
good point.
What's
It's a
different
good
with
point.
it?
It's a good point. It's a good point. And you know, the job is tricky, full stop. I guess not. This is just another tricky element on their plate. So it needs the investment. It needs the extra support. It needs the continuous focus. It's not going to improve. You just throw something at it and leave it. So that's kind of what I'm saying. But definitely don't let me. If it comes across like I'm letting people off the hook, that's not the case. So definitely pull me up on that one. Well, I forgot my train of thought, but the difficult, going back to the difficult conversations, we can't just address what's happening today. We organizations, employees, colleagues need to go back and understand the root cause. The same way we're talking about the data and the cause, we have to talk about colonialism. We have to talk about slavery. We have to talk about all of the things that have given us the landscape that we are dealing with, and have contributed to why do we have those stereotypes you described about professionalism and a lack of professionalism with black people, you know, if they have their hair out, you know, why are the you know, microaggressions around assertiveness versus aggressiveness, the angry black woman, the stereotype, like where do these things stem from? You know, I feel that understanding is really important, and it's not an easy overnight thing. Education needs to be done. So don't put the pressure on your token black employee to educate the whole organization. Yeah.
That's a great point. I had a lot of conversations about that in terms of whose responsibility is this for the change? How much is it, as you say, the black individual in the organization versus a white individual in organization versus actually the leaders in it? Who does this fall on?
That's a big question.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of some, and I guess it goes to what you said. People are tired. We talked about black people being tired, and I know some are being tired to feel like it's up to them to educate everyone about what's going on, and also speaking to white people, white employees, as in saying we're not sure what to do, we don't know what to say. How do we find the answers? So there is disconnect. I know we're talking more than maybe we have done in the past, but it goes back to, all right, how do we work this? How do we actually move this forward?
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've been focusing quite a bit on the organizations and what needs to be done from organizations, but also what is the role of the BAME, or specifically black professional, in the mix of making this change that everybody wants to see in the workplace, but more broadly in society. And I one point is just a selfish perspective. You, as individuals, as people from minority backgrounds, the odds are stacked against you in terms of your health and your well-being, right? COVID-19, we've seen those statistics. If you're from Black African background, probably 3 times likely to die from COVID-19. You know, you're more likely to suffer from ill mental health. You know, so there's all these stressful situations, and this is just another element on top of that. So there is a duty of care that you have to just look after yourself and those around you. Point number one. If you can't look after yourself, if you're not in a position to stand up and have your energy about you, there's not much you're going to be able to do for your colleagues, your friends and family, etc. So I think there's that point is just looking after your own well-being. And, you know, whether it is exercise, again, we speak about resilience plans quite a lot. That self-care is even more important now. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nice if the organization provides you with coaching or counseling, especially around this tricky period, and understanding how the experience for Black and Asian minority ethnic backgrounds are going to be different, but understanding that specifically for Black professionals and what they face, and then providing them with that. Another role as well in terms of individuals is, you know what, when the opportunity does present itself for you to explain and share your personal experiences. If you feel that you have the capacity, do that. Share it, because things can't change unless people have that evidence. You know, for example, gathering the data. Some organizations can't gather the data if you're not willing to share the data. So how can we do the unless the government do the income inequality gap based on ethnicity, that pay reporting, which seems quite imminent. You have to put your hand up and give that information. But I get why you wouldn't want to do it, because the stats show that you're going to be discriminated against. So it's tricky again.
Yeah. And to your point, I've seen, even in the past few weeks, I've seen friends, family, people close, write really powerful open letters.
Massively. I've seen a lot of those. Yeah.
And Impact wrote to the CEO of his organization, and the CEO actually responded. So having that real dialogue to say, actually, this is what's going on, and something needs to be done to really be that catalyst and drive for change. And a lot of people I'm talking to now are either trying to set up groups or asking more questions. So not necessarily saying I have all the answers, but asking the question, what are we going to do? So I think there's things that we can do, take advantage. And I say we as a black individual. There's also white employees that actually can play a major role as allies in this situation. A lot of people I'm speaking to around that is they're asking more questions about how can I educate myself? What can I do? How can I stand up? And how can I be proactive? So there's a lot of material out there. There's books, resources, there's courses. And I think it's time as well as allies, you say, look, I don't need to wait anymore for a program or wait for my black colleague to say something. I actually need to make the move to educate myself and to be well aware of what is right and what is not right, what is going to be helpful versus what is going to hinder. So I think everyone must now play a role, and that goes to all levels of the organisation, right? From someone just starting in day one, and it goes back to even the George Floyd again. I know I was listening to the lawyer can't remember the name, but the police officer who's only been there for 4 days, and he's like, well, my client's only been in the role 4 days. How can he come up against someone who's been in the office for over 20 years? And actually, forget that. As an officer, you have a duty of care, whether it's your first day, your 100th day, or you've been in there for 30 years, that you have a duty of care for the people you're meant to serve and protect. Same in the organisation. Doesn't matter if it's day one for you, and you're speaking to your boss who's been there for 30 years, you have a duty of care, you have a responsibility to eradicate racism, to eradicate racial prejudice. So it's about taking the challenge and calling things out and making people aware of what is right and what is not right. So we all play a role. Obviously, it's the leaders who will ultimately have a say or be able to sort of pull the budget, but actually, they need to be challenged. They can't be let off the hook. And the more we collaborate and work together, we can start to see those changes. But like you say, it's not going to be an overnight, but people can no longer be quiet. I believe if you're quiet now, you're complicit. You're saying, actually, it's okay. I'm just going to go about. I don't need to say anything. But actually,
you're part of the problem.
Exactly. We need to be calling this out.
100%. Quite a few there. Just lastly, on in terms of solutions, I'm quite optimistic now. Having had lots of conversations with people, managers, people, directors, and leaders around, talent acceleration programs specifically for Black professionals or for BAME professionals, and actually, people investing in that, because at the end of the day, it's all about talent. Essentially, as a business, you want top talent, you want them to develop so that they can be more productive and obviously contribute to the bottom line. Now, unless you're investing in their development, be it coaching, be it kind of hard skills training, they're not gonna progress at the rate that you want to. And there's a lot of, I guess, success stories from women in leadership and those development programs, that the same energy needs to be put towards Black programs and BAME development programs, if we are sort of lumping again with those terms. So yeah, I'm optimistic that there's going to be more of that.
Yeah, I hope so. I think there has to be that real strategy and vision behind it. So in the same way, organizations are setting up their big initiatives and projects for their business, this has to be looked at in the same way. With key people, core resources, support, and as you say, the right measures in place, the right success factors that we're working towards to really ensure that we hit those targets. So I'd say I've got some realistic optimism.
Okay.
So in that, it's good that we are having conversations that we maybe haven't had before. And there seems to be a general consensus that actually a change needs to be made, and there's a spotlight on it. But at the same time, for me, there's an element of we need to start seeing some action.
Yeah.
Because talk is good, but it's not going to change things. So that's why I want us to really start to push and move the dial. So this isn't something that's forgotten the minute there's another news story.
So what would be a realistic expectation then for I guess if we look at the economy as a whole, or for particular organizations? Then if somebody's setting a benchmark for themselves and they're listening, they're working, they have the opportunity, they have the power or influence, what is something that's tangible for them to change right now?
So let's set the vision first. Set the vision, because it's going to be different for different companies. Set the vision. And it might be you have to work on a certain strand. But what is it? Are you looking at your board representation? And at the moment, it's totally white, for example. The vision is to be specific. Like, I know people are scared about these quotas and say, actually put a quota, you're just trying to fit someone in. No, you're not. Quotas doesn't mean you're just trying to get a number in. Quota is used to something to focus your mind to ensure that you've got the right mix. So it's about using that to help open your mind. You're still looking for the best people. You're still looking for what suits your needs of your business and your values, but without any specific criteria, you're just going to keep going around in circles and you've got nothing to say, actually, we're making progress. So whatever that is for your business, that you feel actually this represents what we do and our people more, discuss that, have that in mind, consolidate that, and then you can start putting in place the strategies. How are we going to do this? What are the things we need to do to get this? What support do we need? Who do we need to be speaking? How do we know that the standards are right? How do we know that this is going to continue year down the line, 2 years down the line? So start being specific. And if you don't know, if you haven't got a clue, start getting some advice and start paying for that advice. I think it's time we start being a bit direct and blunt about this in a way. And like, actually, if you want to change, what do you do? If you want to improve your business, you know what you need to do. So this is no different. So I think there's an element of, all right, let's cut the rubbish out and let's do what we need to do. And if you're serious, find serious people to help you, find serious people to support you, get serious people on board, and you're going to make that progress.
That's it. There we go. Nicely said. I think on that note, we can put a pin in it right now. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's good to catch up. Good to catch up.
As always. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, for sure.
We want to see change. That's the reason why we're connected. That's the reason why we're doing what we're doing with the established you, really. So yeah, good catching up. And I guess there's always where you can find us if you want to have more conversations where we can support and help you with your journey and your progress. Definitely.
Yes. We're on LinkedIn. Our names, Derek Appau, Lanre Sulola. Email address, derek@lpexcellence.com. If you do want to get in touch, please do. Lanre's email address.
Lanre.Sulola@inambitions.com. Look forward to speaking, hearing from you, seeing you more, comment on the things that are of interest to you, and have, real focus on what's important, and we will see the change.
Definitely. All right, guys. Take care, everybody. Speak soon.